Stephen King's The Pet Sematary, 2019, the new one. This movie stars Jason Clarke, Amy Selmetz, John Lithgow, incredible, John Lithgow, I gotta love that guy, right? Jete Laurence. It's closer to the book than the previous movie. The previous movie, they take what happens, the two primary things that happen in this movie, they take it and they break it up and they make two separate movies. It's a good idea if you're trying to stretch that buck. Tell the story, break it in half, have people pay twice to see the same story. It's a good idea. This movie is considerably shorter than those two movies combined, but it tells essentially the same story. It just does it quicker. It goes almost immediately into the horror. You're only in there for a few minutes before you're like, ah, you know, ducking and covering your eyes, man. It's creepy. It's a creepy movie. One thing I wonder, and I'm not giving anything away, this is spoiler free. One thing I'm wondering is, because you've seen it in the previews, if you live like yards away from a heavy trafficked area with trucks constantly zigzagging up and down the street, why? I mean, you got kids, man. You don't know better than that? You didn't think that was a bad idea? I mean, I had a young son and stairs, and I would watch him constantly when we had, you know, stairs. So that's just stairs, man. That's not like a 8,000 pound, 10,000 pound truck zooming at like 60, 70, 80 miles an hour right in front of the front door. He'd never leave the house, you know, even if I had a gate, just in case. He might climb that joint. I don't know. That just seemed like a bad idea to me. But I mean, you gotta get a fence at least, right? That's just stupid. And the next thing, when I heard that there was an Indian burial ground, I'd be like, nope, 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 nope. I'd move. How many movies have Indian burial grounds where, you know, something good happens? None. Indian burial grounds are places where, you know, people move if you want to die there. You know, the ghosts come out of the ground, they chase another ghost out. All kinds of stuff is happening. You don't live near, I wouldn't live near a regular cemetery. You move near an Indian burial ground and you're just expecting something to walk down your hallway when you're asleep or whatever. Nope, 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 nope. The neighbor seemed like he was crazy. He was out in the woods talking to a little girl. If I walked out into the woods, my kids wouldn't be out in the woods. I didn't understand it. But if I found a child that belonged to me out in the woods and some creepy old dude was talking to her, that'd be a fight. That would then be an Indian and an American burial ground, because I just couldn't see that happening and turning out well. But that was the third thing. I mean, it was 3 solid dudes. You gotta move warnings, and they didn't move. They stayed there. So I'm like, okay, well, you wanna be in the middle of a Stephen King book, you know? Stephen King does not write in his regular pen name and write about, you know, puppies and snails and stuff. He writes about horror. So they wanted to be in the middle of a Stephen King book. So this family, what had happened was this family moves from the busy city to a smaller area that is more quiet, right? All of America, right? You got all of America. You're going to move into a house like that. In your backyard is an Indian burial ground. Your neighbor's a lunatic. There's traffic, trucks zooming up. He was crazy before he moved there. So they moved there, and then things start happening in the house. You know, they hear things in the woods. The neighbor tells them, dude, this used to be Indian land. But when the settlers came, the Indians had long since left because they said there were evil spirits in the woods and this big patch of land where they used to bury their dead was bad and wacky things was happening. So bad that these people who lived outside with buffalo and wolves and bears and cougar decided that there was something even more dangerous, and they got up and they all left. They built a barrier around it, a wooden barrier, to try to stop people going in there. They marked the trees as warnings, and then they dipped. And he said, yeah, looks like a good place to raise kids. That's crazy. So they moved there. And then stuff happens to them, you know, not good stuff. Stephen King stuff happens to them. And if you saw the original Pet Sematary or Pet Sematary 2, you know what kind of stuff. Something dies or someone dies, you bury them for whatever wacky reason in that Indian burial ground, and it's marked. If you bury them on this side, it's okay. You bury them on that side, it is not. So they would just take a few extra steps so they could make sure they buried them someplace bad. It's nuts to me. So they did this, and then of course the dead thing comes back angry because being a dead apparently sucks. So they'd come back and they want you to be dead too. So that was the premise of the movie. Not saying who made it, who didn't, whatever, but there is one thing that stay for the ending, because the ending was one of the most heart-wrenching moments. It's like the whole movie led up to that one trick, and I was like, oh, that sucks so bad. It was horrible. There was a woman next to me started crying. It's a horror movie, and she's not screaming, ah, the monsters. She started crying. It was bad, but I'd say you should go see it. And then let's talk about it in the comments. I think this movie was so good. I think it was better than the original ones. In a way. I think it was as good as a collective 2 previous movies because it told the whole story in one shot. And it told it well. Told it so well that I'm going to give this movie 9 bags of popcorn. I don't always give out a 9. And maybe this movie is closer to an 8, but that last few seconds got me, and I was like, wow, that took guts, that took chutzpah to do that. So for the director I'm talking. So yeah, I dug it. But that's what I think. More importantly, what do you think? Let's talk about it in the comments. What's your favorite dead comes back to life, zombie, werewolf, vampire type movie? Let's talk about it. And as always, if you like the video, if you like the content, subscribe. And then like.
Popcorn passport. Get your popcorn passport.